If you love me, please don't judge me. Got my hands tied, the power's above me. Don't shoot the messenger, I'm just a puppet here. If you wanna place blame, then look to the puppeteer. Family, fortune, envy, jealousy, privilege, passed on, legacy, secret, sabotage, borderline, felony, suicide, subtract, selfish, pedigree, yeah.
So it's a battle in Michigan this week for the Cup trucks and ARCA this week as they go to the Irish Hills of Michigan. And we also have the Euro Series back in action at Brands Hatch, a fan favorite track in the UK. So a lot of action to talk about this week, especially with IndyCar and F1 off this week. So let's see how NASCAR and company fared this week. So starting off, we have the ARCA race at Michigan. And well, this ARCA race, it was the Butterbean Queen show from start to finish as Brendan Queen dominated this race at Michigan. Even despite the best efforts from Corey Heim, who was leeching at the last second, truck leeching, since Jake Finch fell under the weather. So Corey Heim was tapped in to drive the other Venturini car. But he could not beat Butterbean Queen, as he was able to hold off Heim's leeching powers. And Butterbean Queen gets his third win of the season, winning at Michigan. And it's the last race for ARCA on one of the big Cup Series tracks before they go into the short track portion of the season coming up. As we got a bunch of short tracks coming up on the schedule for ARCA coming. So, yeah, so now we'll begin some short track portion of the seasons, and we'll see some standalone races for them coming up. But yeah, another solid race for ARCA in Michigan. ARCA usually puts on a pretty solid show at Michigan, especially when they aren't crashing and going to ARCA overtime and all that bullshit. But yeah, honestly, for Corey Heim, though, is it really leeching, though, since he's only in the truck series and he's not Cup driver, though? Do we still count it leeching? You decide. But yeah, still, Butterbean Queen gets the win. He's now won 3 out of 6 races this year, and now is a commanding hold of the championship right now. So, Butterbean Queen definitely looking like the driver, the favorite to win the championship this year. I think it's looking pretty clear right now that this year's ARCA championship will not be a winless champion this year. It's going to be someone that has won at least a couple races this year. How many does Butterbean Queen win this year? Tune in this season to find out. Now we get to the Euro Series doubleheader at Brands Hatch for the UK Speedfest. And well, for both races at Brands Hatch, both races were pretty much a battle between Gianmarco Iracoli and Vittorio Girelli, as those two look to add another chapter in their great rivalry up in Europe. As both drivers battled it out for the win in both races, Iracoli would dominate, but he would have late charges from Girelli in the late both races. But in both races, Iracoli would hold his own, and Gianmarco Iracoli holds up Vittorio Girelli in both races and sweeps the weekend at Brands Hatch, winning the Saturday race and the Sunday race. He sweeps it all. And he also holds the record now in the Euro Series for most wins at Brands Hatch, becoming the most successful driver to win in NASCAR in the UK. So I think it's safe to say Iracoli has this Brands Hatch track figured out pretty well. And of course, with those wins, it also helps him as now he's back in the championship hunt. As now we're starting to get into crunch time in the championship. Because with the Brands Hatch doubleheader out of the way, and with that oval race in Fenway in the Netherlands canceled, we're now officially midway through the Euro Series season. We're 6 races down, only 6 more to go. Can Girelli win his second straight championship? Or will Iracoli spoil the fun and have another late charge? Or will somebody else come in and win the championship this year? 6 races left to decide, and of course, of those final 6 races, the last 4 will be double points races. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. Looking forward to it, because once again, season-long points for the win, baby. Now we go to the Truck Series race at Michigan for the Truck's grand return to Michigan. Because we can't have all three, because we can't have Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks at Michigan on the same weekend. Like, seriously, why the fuck did you give Xfinity a second Bristol date over a Michigan race? Like, I'd rather have a Michigan race over a second fucking Bristol date for Xfinity, just to have some more schedule diversity, god damn it. But yeah, losing Xfinity at Michigan was the price to bring the Trucks back. A soul for a soul. And while this truck race was pretty solid, well, until the last 15 laps. The last 15 laps was just a complete shit show. As in the last 15 laps, the ARCA Truck Series field aside, you remember how much of a shit show Phoenix was 2 years ago? Let's recreate that in the last 15 laps, because it was just a massive caution fest after that. And it was a race that ended up going to 3 green-white checkers. Especially after Chastain got balled up on a restart and wrecked the field on a restart. Oh, whoopee. It might be as bad as Phoenix. Maybe worse. Okay, maybe not too worse because Phoenix was 4 green-white checkers. Wow, this shit was only 3. And on the third attempt, it would finish under green somehow. And we would have a photo finish between Stuart Friesen and Grant Enfinger. With Friesen getting the win by 11/100ths of a second. Oh, great. Just because we had another photo finish at Michigan in trucks, this means that now nothing's going to change, and we're going to keep the green-white checkers. And Ian Perez now loses all his leverage in the debate for no green-white checkers now. Because now anytime he complains about green-white checker finishes, NASCAR can go, oh, well, you see, Ian, green-white checkers produced this finish, and it produced this finish at Kansas last year with that photo finish between Larson and Buescher by 1,000th of a second. I should also mention the Kansas finish only took 1 attempt at a green-white checker. You needed 3 attempts to do this, but NASCAR will ignore that and be like, it doesn't matter how many attempts we did. It doesn't matter how many good trucks we crashed in the process. We got a fair photo finish out of all of it. Even if it took 3 attempts, we still got it. And this also was the longest Truck Series race in Truck Series history in terms of time and distance. And I'll say this, NASCAR, it's not the fucking flex you think it is. And neither is flexing about being the only motorsport to have green-white checker finishes. Because there's a reason why NASCAR is the only motorsport to have green-white checkers. And and they're not good reasons. It's not for the reasons you think it is. And it's not the flex you think it is. But of course, like Nashville, everyone will defend it and say it's okay because the race finished under green. But that same crowd will then complain the moment we have a race that has 2 or 3 attempts at green-white checkers, only for it to end under caution. I'll say that crowd is, you don't have the right to complain when you defend what happened at Nashville last year. And then that same breath, then criticize what happened at Indy that same year when we had 2 green-white checkers at Indy and the race ended under caution. You don't get to just criticize that finish and then defend the bullshit that happened at Nashville last year. Same deal with Michigan, and whenever we have a truck race later this year that has 2 or 3 green-white checker attempts and ends under caution, you don't get to criticize the finish of that race in the future. Because that's the backup. That's just how it works. Honestly, it was a fucking embarrassing fucking finish. We really waited this long for trucks to come back to Michigan just for that shit. Honestly, we were better off just having Xfinity here anyway. But speaking of trucks, though, we at least will end the truck segment though on a positive note because we have some manufacturer news. Because one of the main reasons why NASCAR has lowered the horsepower is to try and bring a new manufacturer engine supplier back into NASCAR. There have been many rumors and interest about Dodge coming in, or Honda, or even fucking Subaru or Hyundai or some other shit. And of course, a lot of them have turned down the deal, especially Dodge. Dodge saying that if it ain't high horsepower, they want nothing to do with it. But even despite Dodge's pleas to stay away from NASCAR, and NASCAR not raising the horsepower, even though Dodge said that they had no interest in low horsepower bullshit. In the end, NASCAR made Dodge fall victim to the Ted DiBiase rule. Because in the end, everybody's got a price. And NASCAR found Dodge's price. Which means starting in 2026, Dodge is officially back in NASCAR. I'll just say, and the Truck Series for 2026, with plans to possibly return to the Cup Series as early as 2027. No word yet about Xfinity either, but I mean, if they're going to go to Cup, they're probably going to want to go to Xfinity as well in this process. But yeah, we'll be going to trucks starting next year in 2026 with the Ram back in action. Honestly, the Ram should have never left to begin with. And Dodge will be looking to field 4 to 6 truck teams by Daytona next year. At least we got one positive news out of it, especially that stage display they had with Dodge, with the Ram truck on the stage at Michigan. We're doing the burnouts on the trailer, which had blue and red smoke, which raises the question of what was the gender during this gender reveal. Because we have both blue and red smoke. Does that mean it's twins and one's a boy and one's a girl? I'm pretty sure that's how gender reveals work. If it's twins, like if we have those kind of colors. But yeah, Dodge will be back in NASCAR starting next year for the first time in 14 years. Although, I'll just say this, though, the announcement wasn't really that special, though, because Michael Waltrip had to open his fucking mouth on the Trucks broadcast and spoil it. And spoil potentially Cletus McFarland getting one of those Dodge truck rides next season. Damn it, Mikey, you had one fucking job. You can't even do that right. You done fucked up again. And for anyone that wants to call for Michael Waltrip's job and want him fired, I have some bad news. He ain't getting fired anytime soon. Because he's one of NASCAR's biggest ass kissers. And as long as he keeps kissing NASCAR's ass, he'll keep getting his he'll get to keep his job, but he'll keep getting too many undeserved second chances. The death of every business. Too many undeserved second chances when you put the wrong people in. When you put the wrong people in and give them the reins for way too goddamn long. Yep, that's what kissing ass will do. It's like, hey, you don't defend the chase formats and all the stupid bullshit we'll do? Guess what, Mikey? You're hired and you get to keep the job for as long as you want, as long as you keep kissing our ass. But hey, Dodge is finally back. Although, I'll just say this, though. Did Dodge really technically leave the sport since they're still a vital part in the Canada series for so many years, especially with their partnership with DJ Kennington and company? Like, technically, Dodge really didn't leave, though, if they were technically in the Canada series this whole time. Just gonna throw that out there. But, yeah. At least, so it looks like in turn, NASCAR trying to get their engines. So it looks like in NASCAR's quest to lowering the horsepower to bring more engine suppliers in the sport, they did technically now accomplish their goal. Which means that horsepower is not being raised anytime soon for short tracks and road courses. God damn it, that's the fucking price we're gonna have to pay to bring Dodge back. And maybe potentially Honda in the future. Honestly, in terms of those Honda rumors, I'll believe Honda will be in NASCAR when I fucking see it with my own eyes. Anyway, now let's get to the Cup Series race at Michigan. And, well, this Cup Series race had a lot of comers and goers, just like a lot of Michigan races, because Michigan is such a pit strategy race. Because you got so many comers and goers. Like, this was actually a really good race at Michigan. Another absolute banger at Michigan International Speedway. You know, easily a contender, I would say, for race of the year. Like, stage 1 was pretty tamed. Outside of a couple flat tires from a few drivers, it was pretty tame. Like, a lot of comers and goers, like, especially with Byron looking at front and then Chris Buescher coming out of nowhere and then winning the first stage. Stage 2 was the most chaos-filled out of all 3 stages. We had a bunch of spins in there with Nemechek and Gregson. And then the big crash involving Custer, Suarez, Briscoe, and Bowman. Honestly, prayers to Bowman, because that was a nasty hit he took in the wall. Thank God he walked away on his own power from that crash, but dear God, that was a nasty lick he took in there. Which then with the more pit strategy, And then William Byron stealing the stage win from Austin Cindric on the final lap to win stage 2. And then stage 3 was pretty tame until we have a couple spins from flat tires from Todd Gilliland and Ryan Blaney, which then forced a long green flag run to end the race. And then in the final 50 laps or so, it was looking like maybe Carson Hocevar was finally going to get his first career win, which would be very poetic at his home track in Michigan, since Hocevar is from the Michigan area. It's from the Michigan area. You know, and when Hocevar took the lead, the fucking crowd roared. It sounded like if Dale Jr. took the lead. See, I think it's safe to say that Michigan stands with Carson Hocevar. I think it was pretty clear during driver intros, especially after Hocevar's antics last week, everyone wondering what the reaction was. Well, if you were hoping for boos this week, it wasn't happening this week since it's Michigan. And Michigan always stands by their own. Even Keselowski and Eric Jones, too. But in the end, the racing gods decided this still wasn't Carson Hocevar's day in the Cup Series. As Hocevar with about 20 to go, would suffer a flat left rear tire that would take him out of the lead. That's honestly a more brutal way to lose than running out of gas. Honestly, let's be honest though, even if Hocevar didn't have that flat tire, he was probably not going to win this race anyway. Because Hocevar was going to need a caution to have any chance at making it to the end on fuel. And in the end, that caution would never come out after Hocevar's flat tire. So, Hocevar would have ran out of gas regardless. It would have lost this race anyway. Honestly, I'd probably rather would have preferred him just running out of gas than having a flat tire. Because I think flat tire is a more brutal way to lose than running out of gas. Damn. Which then gave the lead to William Byron, as Byron and Larson and Ty Gibbs were all in fuel conservation mode. But the driver behind them, that was coming behind them, was not in fuel conservation mode, as Denny Hamlin saved enough earlier in the run to be able to, at the end, to run hard and run everybody out or make everybody tap out. As once he got past Larson and Ty Gibbs and Larson would both bow out and just go into full fuel conservation mode to make it to the end. While William Byron would say hell to the no on that, and he would say fuel until Hamlin got close, and then he would go into battle with Hamlin. Larson could have gone hard if he wanted to. Larson has 3 wins this year. And points don't fucking mean anything at this point. So you have a fucking free get out of jail free card. And for Byron, he got his win at Daytona, so Byron decided to use his get-out-of-jail-free card on this race. As Byron would battle Hamlin hard, but in the end, Hamlin would get the lead with the final 6 laps, and then coming to the white flag, William Byron, trying as hard as he could, would run out of gas coming to the white flag. And once Byron ran out of gas, that was all there was. As really, once Chris Buescher got the second, he would need a miracle for Hamlin. He would need Hamlin to run out of gas to have any chance to get the lead. In the end, that would not happen. As in terms of which drivers would end up saving at the pump, the one that saved at the pump the best was Denny Hamlin. As Hamlin goes on and wins at Michigan against Joe Gibbs Racing, their first win at Michigan in 10 years. Oh look, Joe Gibbs once again reigning supreme in Michigan. Just like how Washington reigned supreme against Detroit back in January. God fucking damn it. Not Gibbs reigning supreme on Michigan again. Fuck. Yep, Joe Gibbs, the fucking boogeyman to Michigan sports fans. And then Hamlin, after the race, when Hamlin climbed out of the car, the crowd was cheering for him. Until Hamlin realized, oh shit, I can't have the crowd cheering for me. I need to be a villain. How do I do this? Well, Hamlin, it's simple. You're in Michigan. You're an Ohio State fan. That should be enough to figure it out. As Hamlin would then do the OHIO, Ohio State Buckeye hand signals, and then that got everybody to get booing him again. Because remember, we're in Michigan. And what's the one college program Michigan hates the most? Oh shit, it's Ohio State. And then Hamlin would add more fuel to the fire, or in this case, the kerosene, by Hamlin once again doing the I beat your favorite drivers quote. Even apologizing to his dad, saying, "I'm sorry, Daddy, but I beat your favorite driver." Well, so much for Hamlin not doing that chant for the last year and a half because Hamlin's dad said it made Hamlin sound like an asshole. Well, I guess Hamlin doesn't care about sounding like an asshole. Because remember, Hamlin's a character. This isn't the real him. It's just a gimmick. Just like how Hamlin's win helps himself out for that in-season tournament thing. Because, oh yeah, I forgot that in-season tournament thing was still a thing this year. And this means this win will make Hamlin one of the top 3 seeds for it. Because they're seeding it based on best finish in the 3 races. NASCAR, why in the fuck are you making that the seeding? Like, why the fuck is it best finish in 3 races? Why not just make it whoever has the most points in the 3 seeding races, damn it? That would be more easier and simpler to understand. I'll just say this, NASCAR. If you want people to get on board with these gimmicks like the in-season tournament and all that, to make it easy to understand, like if you want people to get on board, confusing the hell out of everybody isn't the way to do it. Like, there's a reason why a lot of fans are starting to turn on green-white checkers and why a lot of fans hate most of the gimmicks in the sport, like stage racing, the chase and playoffs, and probably this shit now. Because you make it too confusing to goddamn understand. Like, if you made it easy and simple to understand, then a lot more people will probably be on board with it. Like, seriously, why the fuck is it best finish? Just make it most points in the 3 seeding. Whoever has the most points in the 3 seeding races, damn it. Especially considering that 3 and 4 of the next 5 races coming up are wild card races. Because, oh yeah, with Michigan being a seeding race, that also means Mexico and then Pocono are the other 2 seeding races for that in-season tournament thing they're doing on the TNT Summer Series. Honestly, it's pretty ironic and poetic that Hamlin will be one of the top 3 seeds for it. Considering Hamlin was the one that came up with this in-season tournament thing when he did that bracket challenge the last 2 years for Dirty Mo Media. So yeah, only fitting Hamlin gets to be one of the top seeds for it. Whether Hamlin wins or not this year is to be determined. I mean, the 2 years they did on Dirty Mo Media, Hamlin didn't even win it, so you can't even say it was rigged for Hamlin when he can't even win it. When that was just for fun. This year, it's now for $1 million. But yeah. And also with this win, Hamlin also now becomes the winningest driver at Joe Gibbs Racing with his 57th win. Passing the previous landmark set by Kyle Busch, who had 56 wins at Joe Gibbs Racing. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Hamlin's the greatest driver in NASCAR history without a championship. Especially when he leads the team he's with when wins in Joe Gibbs Racing. But damn, I didn't even know he passed Kyle Busch there. Jesus fuck. And also with this win, Hamlin has now become the 10th driver in NASCAR history to win a cup race after making 700 cup starts. Of course, though, out of those 9 drivers that have made 700 starts, only 6 of them that won a race after the 700 start threshold. Only 6 of them won multiple times. The most successful of them is Richard Petty, who's the only one to have double-digit wins after 700 cup starts. Because Petty had 22 wins after the 700 start threshold. The next closest after that is Kevin Harvick with 7, and then Jeff Gordon with 6. So how many more races will Hamlin win after 700 starts? Probably not that many. Because it seems like according to the trend, once he hits 700 cup starts, that's when fodder time starts to catch up on you. Even Kyle Busch is on this list and he hasn't even won a race yet. Jesus Christ. After 700 starts. All I say is don't show Busch fans that graphic. It'll just make them cry even harder now. But yeah, honestly, out of all the drivers that won after 700 cup starts, it's a pretty impressive list. All of them are Hall of Famers or soon to be Hall of Famers. With the weakest link out of all of them being easily Ricky Rudd. And let's be honest, the way things are going this year, I think this is Hamlin's last shot at a championship. Like, if Hamlin doesn't win the title this year, Hamlin will officially be the greatest driver to never win a Cup championship. I think it's at that point he's already better than Mark Martin in this category. I mean, 57 Cup wins, 3 Daytona 500s. I think that's enough to make Hamlin a shoo-in for greatest driver to never win a championship. But yeah, it all depends on what happens this year, because Hamlin's never going to have a season like this ever again. Especially now that he's past the 700 start threshold. Because it seems like once you pass that start threshold, that's when fodder time catches up and when you start to slow, your career starts to slow down. Either that or when you hit the mid-40s age, which is, oh shit, that's where Hamlin is right now in terms of his age. So yeah, Hamlin fans, enjoy these wins while you can. Because Hamlin's time may soon slowly be up. Just remember, I made a certain prediction when I picked Hamlin to win the championship this year back in January. Just gonna throw that out there. But anyway, with all that said, now it's time for the Cup Series to head south. As next week, we got Cup Series International racing for the first time in the modern era. Well, outside those exhibition races they ran in Australia and Japan back in the 80s and 90s. But we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, anyway, that wraps it up here. See you all next week for the Cup Series race at Mexico. Along with F1 in Montreal and IndyCar at Gateway under the lights. I'm out.